Children, in this video, we'll continue with our chapter 3 of geography, that is our changing earth part 2 for class 7th. Children, if you have seen my first part of this chapter's video, our changing earth, I've already mentioned to you that the lithosphere is broken into a number of plates known as lithospheric plates or tectonic plates, and these plates are floating on the mantle, which is in a semi-liquid state, and these plates move very slowly, maybe just few millimeters each year. And why do they move? Because this is because of the movement of the molten magma which is inside our earth, and this molten magma moves in a circular manner due to the convection currents, and this movement of these lithospheric plates cause changes on the surface of the earth. Now, these movements can be divided on the basis of the forces which cause them. Now, there are two types of forces which act. There are endogenic forces and exogenic forces. What is the meaning of endogenic? Endogenic means inside, what forces which are acting inside the earth. Okay, and in this video we are going to study more about endogenic forces and exogenic forces, which are happening, changes that are brought about on the surface of the earth. Okay, so in this video we are going to study about endogenic forces. Now, endogenic forces, you can see, sometimes produce sudden movements, okay, and which cause a lot of destruction on the surface of the earth. Now, which are those sudden movements? They are earthquakes, volcanoes, landslides, and sometimes they produce slow movements like building of mountains or creating a valley. Okay, so we are going to study now in detail about volcanoes and earthquakes. Children, as you know, the earth's crust is made up of plates, and these plates are broken into pieces which are floating on the mantle, which is in a semi-liquid state. And due to the convection currents, there are three types of movements on the earth's plate. Now, the first movement is divergent. Can you see? They are moving in opposite direction, and what is happening? There's creating a gap between, which leads into rift valleys. The next movement is called as convergent. Now, what is convergent? When the plates come closer to each other, they form mountains. Okay, and the third one is called as transformational. Now, what is transformational? When the two plates slide past each other, this causes friction, and this transformational movement causes earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, which are sudden movements. Okay, and they create a lot of destruction on the surface of the earth. So children, when the lithospheric plates move apart, what happens? A gap is created. You can see there is a gap formed when the plates are moved apart, and because these plates are floating on the mantle, which is in a semi-liquid state. This is a magma which has high temperature, and due to intense pressure, it finds a gap to come out on the surface of the earth. So it travels upward with tremendous force and releases all that hot molten magma and travels upward, which leads to volcanic eruptions. So children, you see, this is a diagram of the volcano, and you can see this is the crust, and here the crust, which is broken up, is floating on the mantle. And what is there in the mantle? Hot semi-liquid magma, which is very hot, high temperatures. So when there's a crack in the crust, this heat and pressure which is building inside the mantle, with tremendous force, it travels upwards and gushes out. And what comes out? Gases, ashes, and magma comes out, and it all floats over the surface of the earth. So this is a sudden movement, because whenever this heat and pressure is still building up inside the earth, and whenever they find a gap in the crust, they gush out. Okay, and this is a sudden thing that happens and gush out, and what comes out? Gases, ash, lava. Okay, so this is what you must remember, the diagram of a volcano, which is normally asked. You cannot draw it, and these are the parts that you have to label. So if I have to define what is a volcano, it is a vent or an opening in the earth's crust through which molten material erupts suddenly. So that's the definition of a volcano. Again, I repeat, a volcano, it is a vent or opening in the earth's crust through which molten material erupts suddenly. So this is a diagram that you must remember to label all these points. Okay, now let's enjoy a video showing the volcanic eruption. Children, before we watch the video of the volcanic eruption which causes massive destruction on the surface of the earth, one thing that you must remember is that the magma which comes outside on the surface of the earth is called as lava, and magma is found inside the earth. Okay, so inside the earth it is magma. When it comes out through volcanic eruptions and cools on the surface of the earth, it is called lava. Now let us look at and watch the video of the volcanic eruptions and see the massive destruction it causes on the earth's surface. Another sudden movement is the earthquake. So if you have to describe what is an earthquake, it is the shaking of the earth's surface. Okay, it is, or vibrations and tremors. We can feel the tremors that the earth is shaking. That is earthquake. Now how does this happen? We can see that it also happens in the same manner when two lithospheric plates slide past each other. You can see here they're sliding past each other, which leads to friction, similarly like the volcanoes, and the space between the two plates is called a fault. So when these two plates rub together, It is often said occurs on a fault line, and due to intense heat that is trapped, the heat energy that is trapped inside the earth gets released because of this fault that has been created. So children, when the plates rub against each other, friction is created, and the place where the friction is created is just called the epicenter, and there the energy that is trapped inside the earth gets released, which leads to shaking and vibration of the earth. Now where is the epicenter in this picture? Where do you find they are rubbing against each other? So you can see here is the epicenter, and the maximum damage will happen near the epicenter, in and around the epicenter. So children, who will feel the vibration and shaking of the earth more? Yes, the one who are at the epicenter, where it starts and these vibrations spread outwards from the epicenter. Okay, here you can see I've shown you a tap with water is dripping, and what is happening, you can see the ripples, they are flowing outwards. So the main damage will be in the center and less damage will be on the outside. Okay, so because the ripples are the circles are getting bigger and bigger, the smaller circles will see more damage. Okay, so the main damage and shaking of the earth will be felt at the epicenter. Okay, and here you can see how it's traveling. You can see in this video, see here is the epicenter, so most damage was here, and then the vibrations are traveling further, so they will feel less damage, and although they may feel the shaking of the earth, but the damage will be less there. More damage has occurred here. Okay, so you can see the ripples going. These are called as tremors or quakes or shock waves or seismic waves. So children, here I'm going to try to explain to you how the earthquake forms with the help of this diagram. All of you can see here is the crust, yes, and when these which is broken up into pieces, and when these two pieces slide past each other, friction is created, and when this friction becomes too much and rubs, when you friction, what happens is a lot of energy is released, and this leads to shaking of the earth. So where the friction has occurred, this is the epicenter, and directly below the earth's surface where the thing happens is called the focus. And what happens because of this rubbing, seismic waves are formed and they are traveling outwards. So maximum damage on the earth will be at the epicenter, and as the waves travels further, there will be less damage. So the waves of shaking are called as seismic waves, some call it as tremors, some call it as earthquakes, but in geography terms it is called as seismic waves. Children, how do we measure an earthquake? Yes, we can measure an earthquake by using a machine which is called as a seismometer. So you can see here the maximum shaking is there, then it's becoming lesser and lesser, and with this help they can record the shaking of the earth by using this machine which is called as seismometer. Children, as we use centimeters and inches to measure a line, shaking of the earthquake is measured by using a scale which is called as a Richter scale. So what is Richter scale, if you are asked? It is used to measure how much shaking an earthquake causes. Now the Richter scale gives an earthquake a number from 1 to 10. So if on the seismograph we have less than 2, that means nobody has felt the earthquake. If it is between 2 and 4, then it can be felt but not much damage has been done. 5 and 6 can cause damage. 7 to 10 are considered as major earthquakes and cause severe damage. Okay, lots of damage can be caused on the earth's surface. Children, let us have a look at this experiment to understand the vibration of the earth during an earthquake. Now take a container, okay, fill it with water and close it with a lid and put it on a burner or a gas or any stove that you have, and here this is a chulha. So we have put the water to boil, okay, and then we will put some peas and spoons on top of the lid. What will you notice after some time? Yes, as the water begins to boil, the lid will begin to shake, and the things that we have put over the lid, the peas and the spoon, the peas will roll down and the spoon will vibrate to make a sound. So in the same manner, earth vibrates when an earthquake occurs. Children, it is very difficult to predict an earthquake, but there are certain phenomena that people study regarding seeing the environment and animal behavior. They can predict that earthquakes are going to happen, but when it is going to happen, nobody can tell us. But just by studying animal behavior during when an earthquake is about to happen, animals behave in a very abnormal manner. They make peculiar noises. So people who know about this can predict earthquakes. And it is said that fishes in the ponds also get agitated and they move around in a haphazard manner in the pond. And snakes, they come out of their holes and to the surface of the earth. Okay, they leave their homes and they come out on the surface. So these are some of the predictions. But children, although earthquakes cannot be predicted, but the impact can be minimized if we are prepared beforehand. Let's look into the video and see how we can prepare ourselves for the earthquake.
Are you not sure what to do in these situations? Many of us are not sure what to do during an earthquake. Do not panic and do not keep running here and there. Look for a safe place under the table before the roof collapses. Duck, cover and hold on. If trapped in rubble, do not light a matchstick. Cover your mouth with a cloth. Tap on pipe or wall. Sound a whistle.
Help!
Shout only as last resort.
Help!
Use stairs and not lifts or elevators. Anticipate aftershocks. Move cautiously and check for unstable objects around you. Be smart. Be prepared.
Children, earthquake cause a lot of damage to human life and property. You can see in this picture how much of destruction has taken place. The buildings have collapsed, okay, they are bent. You can see the railway lines are crumpled up, trees have been uprooted, roads have been widened. So these are the disastrous destruction that takes place when an earthquake happens. So with this we finish with the endogenic forces that we have learned that act inside the earth. They are due to the movement of the tectonic plates, and we have learned about earthquakes and volcanoes.